Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Simpplr's Cohesion podcast. My name is Miriam Connaughton, the Chief People Officer at Simpplr. And today I'm delighted to say I have two guests. We're mixing it up a little bit. We have two folks who come from the marketing world, but very interestingly, as sometimes happens, Matt Rivera from a wonderful company called Zimmermann, who we'll learn a little bit more about in a moment. And Matt also has marketing as well as internal comms. And someone who I have come to know and love, who is our CMO here at Simpplr. We're very lucky to have Gary Sevounts, who has been at Simpplr since last year. So welcome, Matt and Gary.
Thank you, Miriam.
Yep, thanks. Great to be here.
So first of all, we like our listeners just to get to know a little bit. Who are they listening to? Who are they hearing from? So Matt, first of all, maybe tell us a little bit, first of all, about Zimmermann and your role there.
Cool. Thanks. Well, it's great to be here. It's a great podcast series. I love this series, by the way. Lots of good stuff here. So Zimmermann, I typically shorten it to D&Z, is one of the largest privately held third-generation family-owned companies in the U.S. So really big. We're about $3 billion. And simply put, we put people to work. We have a staffing company that's one of the oldest techno staffing companies in the country. We say we protect our freedoms because we build embassies and we protect embassies. We have people protecting our embassies in dangerous places. And believe it or not, we make some munitions as well that we do for the Army. And we help our customers power and improve the world. So we've been for a long time one of the largest providers of nuclear maintenance and modification services, and we build a lot of things. And now we're building, again, modern embassies, big munitions, modern munitions plants, and solar and renewable energy type projects. So
very cool.
It's really a diverse company. Really, a lot of cool things that we do.
And the size of the population, just to give our listeners a sense of the scale of the company?
We have about 37,000 employees across the world, but about 2,500 that we consider full-time staff that are not working on projects that we communicate with on a regular basis.
Very cool. And just a little bit, Matt, about your role, because it combines, interestingly, marketing and internal comms.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, well, I'm kind of a unicorn, so look quick, because I've been at the same company for almost 34 years. You don't see that a lot nowadays, but I've been very fortunate. I worked on the staffing side coming up in the business, and then took over about 6 years as chief marketing officer. And that included internal communications as well as external marketing, branding, all of those things. So it's been a really cool journey for me, and a long journey, but I'm enjoying it. Still enjoying it, still having a lot of fun.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, they're kind of becoming a thing of the past, but it's very cool to have such a great career and do it in one place. Excellent. Good for you. And so, Gary, I think our listeners are somewhat familiar with Simpplr, this being our podcast. So, but maybe, give our listeners a little sense of, your career journey. You don't have to go back to day one, but your career journey and kind of, where you've been prior to Simpplr.
Absolutely. Thank you, Miriam. So my journey started from my interest in both journalism and computer science, which is a very strange combination of things. It's sort of like left brain and the right brain. And I discovered that I absolutely love tech. And I got a degree in computer science, then master's in business. And I tried virtually every role in technology, from software engineering to tech support to quality assurance to product management to marketing. And I realized marketing is really what I love, because it includes everything from storytelling to metrics, analytics, building success of the companies, and really truly understanding the technology and your target personas. This is my fifth CMO role. Some of my previous CMO roles included being a CMO of Malwarebytes, of a company called Socure, as well as being CMO of Equifax's identity and fraud division. And the reason I joined Simpplr is the importance I put for culture. I believe that it's true happiness to do the work you love. And I really believe that culture, communications, happiness, and productivity are really important. And what Simpplr does, it really brings that all together from in one place where it can build culture to empower frictionless communications, and make employees productive and happy.
Yeah, there you go, in a nutshell. And so we're going to dig more into that whole kind of marketing, internal comms, partnership and lots of goodness. But before we do, we like to kind of do a little bit of quick fire, get to know you a little better. There's no wrong answer here. Don't overthink it. Say what first comes to your mind. So I'm going to go to you first of all, Gary. Tea or coffee?
All right. Coffee is happiness to me, and I have Nespresso maker right
I know.
by
I
my
steal
desk.
it often. Thank you for bringing your Nespresso into the office. What about you, Matt?
Oh, tea all the way. Green tea, and I've been drinking it for years. I've never had a cup of coffee in my life.
Healthy goodness. There you go. So if it was your dream vacation, would it be chilling by the beach or scaling a snowy top mountain? Go to you first, Matt.
Definitely beach warmth, especially this time of year. I'm all about the warmth.
There you go. What about you, Gary? What would be your poison?
It would be absolutely beach, but it has to include cycling.
There you go. All righty. All right. And let's say you could kind of have a superpower, but only for one day. What would that superpower be? Go to you first, Matt. Go for it.
I think I would be able to help a lot of people in short order. So I don't know what that would look like, but be able to fly around, help a lot of people.
There you go. Make some wishes for everybody. Fabulous.
Yes.
Gary, what about you?
It would be similar to Matt's, to have ability to help people to build confidence and accomplish the dreams they have without setback of self-doubt.
Wow. So two amazingly empathetic, altruistic CMOs. I'm so delighted to be talking with you today.
Making wishes come true. That's what we do.
There you go. There you go. So great leaping off point, because one of the things I'm interested in exploring. So I'm a chief people officer. I come very much from that people agenda as well. And I'm fascinated by the connection between, CX and EX. We've long talked about it, researched it, a lot published about it. Just interested, first of all, to get your perspectives on that relationship that you see alive in organizations. Kind of how do you think about it, especially, you, Matt, because you own aspects of both. You own that customer relationship, and you also include important aspects of the employee relationship with your comms. How do you think about that dynamic?
The brand starts inside. So if you're building a brand, it starts inside. And it's with your people, how they treat each other, how they treat their customers. So that's the way, if the employees are living the brand, then the customers will see it, and it kind of all follows. And there's a lot you can do around that. So I'd say it really does begin inside. So if you're caring for the internal experience, you're likely to have a better shot at the external experience as well.
Yeah, inside out for sure. Gary, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I want to echo what Matt said. Absolutely, brand starts internally. It starts with a mission and starts with the employees believing in why. Why did we start the company? Why are we doing what we're doing all day long? Why are we passionate about it, right? And in the companies that I worked with and I dealt with, when there is that connection and it's genuine, employees become ambassadors. And in the companies where that connection doesn't exist, people don't believe it, and it's just words, then it can take a negative turn really quickly.
Yeah, no, that's so important. And just kind of let's drill into that a little bit. So starting with the why, the purpose, the mission, what are some of the effective strategies you've seen or used, whether it's more current or in your past, that really help bring that purpose and mission alive, both for customers and for employees? Because to your point, Matt, it starts from the inside out, but you also want your customers to believe in your brand as well. So what are some of the strategies that you've seen effective at getting that purpose and mission across, whether it's to customers or employees?
Yeah, I think that, one of the best strategies is to be, transparent, is to make sure that, again, what Gary said is that you're living what you say you're living. And so, if you're doing that, you're able to do that on, where people can really feel that it's authentic. And we'll talk, I'm sure, a little bit about this too, about that authenticity. That's a strategy. That's one of those things where, you can't make that up. You can, to a certain extent, kind of, get some window dressing around it and kind of make it feel like maybe a little better than it is. But at some point, it has to be transparent and authentic.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Gary, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I would focus on three things. One, stories. Everything starts with stories in marketing, right? And I can give you several examples. Like when I was at a company called Count, we helped customers, and one of the stories was we helped stop the fraud ring that turned out to be doing human trafficking. And because of our software, the New York Police Department was able to bust that and free people and arrest two criminals who were driving that. And when you tell an impactful story like that, employees believe, right? It's not just words, right? So that's number one. Number two is a consistency of communications, right? And number three is the importance of communications, right? Because you tell one story, people move on to the next thing, but unless you have a system of communicating consistently and genuinely and through the right channels, the voice kind of get muffled and people get into their silos, right? So those are my thoughts.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's well said. Storytelling is a great connective tissue, isn't it, between that kind of customer marketing storytelling and employee storytelling. And I love your example, Gary, of taking that real life example and bringing it to life, both for employees and for customers. Just what are some of the characteristics, of great storytelling? Whether it's you're telling that story to a customer to inspire them to reinforce the brand, or doing that internally. What are some of the things in your collective many decades of experience between you have you come to know to be true about great storytelling? What are some of the things that come to mind for you? Maybe Matt, if you want to go first.
Yeah, I think that when you're telling a story, so a couple things. One would be it's always better to have the people tell the story, right? So we can craft a good story, we can package it, we can do some things that, really help the story or help the narrative of it, and there's things we need to do that. So in our jobs, we do, we help package it. We have some ideas to help that. But there's nothing more authentic than having the person tell the story. So that's kind of the first thing. And, a good example of what we do right now is we have parts of our business where the work is kind of different than it's not sitting at a desk. It's not those types of things. And, if we had a corporate head, somebody just talking about it, even having somebody, tell the story wouldn't be as impactful as having the person who's doing the job tell the story. And what, and in part what it's like to work there, and, and just get a flavor for the type of person that is doing, the job you're thinking about doing. So I think that's the first thing. It's making sure that's authentic. I think the second thing when you're telling a story is, just to follow a little bit of the rules. You don't have to be, really regiment. You don't have to say, we have a beginning, a middle, and an end. But you want to tell that story. You want to give them some context, and then you want to give them enough details that they connect with that story. And then you want to kind of wrap it up and say, here's why it's important to you. So you got to follow a little bit of storytelling, through there, and it makes for a better story, and it makes for more impact with those stories. And then if you have a few different stories and you connect those, then people kind of go, oh, I get it. That's, that's what they're about. And that's what they're trying to tell me or even sell me, or this is what their company's about.
Yeah. Yeah, that consistency point that Gary mentioned a second ago. Gary, what are some of your additional thoughts on great storytelling?
Absolutely. So journalism being one of my hobbies, stories are one of the reasons I'm in marketing. And I would say starting with audience and making sure that the story is very relevant to the people that we're trying to speak with, right? That's number one. Number two, there's going to be an awe effect in it, right? Where people are like, wow, that's interesting. I didn't really think that way, right? And the third one, which is very important, is to be genuine. I think as marketers, we get so many tasks oftentimes that we revert to fluffery. And the genuine story should be devoid of fluffery. Truly genuine story counts, and it carries, and the receiver can detect that genuine component. So those are my three thoughts.
Fluffery is my new word of the day, Gary. I'm not
Yes.
sure it is a word in the dictionary, but it evokes a great image. So fluffery, I love it. I love it.
I even have a blog on that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, you both kind of, what resonates very strongly through both of your comments is that authenticity, that genuine. People can sniff it out if it's faking. It's got to be real. That really resonates, I think, just in our own real life human experience, the kind of stories we kind of hook onto. There's got to be a real resonance to them, hasn't there, of authenticity. And I'm curious as well, because one of the things that resonates with me in storytelling a lot is humor. I'd be interested to get your professional perspectives on what place does humor have, both in talking to our customers and also, Matt, in your case, you on bringing it inside as well and bringing it to life in your internal comms. How do you do you use humor? And if so, kind of what are some of your perspectives on, how to use humor well in the workplace?
I love that question, because this is one of my favorite things, other than music, and as a way to get messages across. But humor, I think, has a great place in kind of bringing things down to like that human level, right? It's tricky. I will say it's tricky, and any marketer will tell you it's tricky because some things don't land. I mean, just look at the Super Bowl commercials, right? So you go to Super Bowl commercials, and not everyone, was a touchdown, let's say. So the idea is you want to connect with people. And, so even when you're using humor, you have to learn when it kind of disarms and when it helps you get that narrative across. So there's some things that are very serious and you don't want to use humor, but there's some things that, using humor, here's the way I like to think of it. And I like to tell my folks as they're going through their day, is surprise people. And sometimes you can surprise them with humor. So, whatever the content is, whatever you're trying to get off, if you put it across in a different way, and I'll give you a very concrete example of that. It was very fun. So we had a leadership meeting. So the first part of the year is always leadership kickoff meetings, right? You go to kickoff meetings and you listen and you're in the audience, you're listening for hours on end to stuff. And some of it's great and relevant and you're into it. Some of it you might not be, okay, I'm tired. It's day 3, so we do an awards type night, and I put together some music, and I've done this for a lot of years, but I'll put together a song and it'll be a song parody, but it'll have a message, so proud to put our name on it. Or, we had, a lot of salespeople who had a rough year. So we'll do something like losing my commission, to the tune of losing my religion, so it's things like that get across that people remember. And so, there's ways to use it. And I think it's a huge tool to use. But again, I think it's part of the surprising people, giving them something a little unexpected. And sometimes that's humor.
Yeah. And it sticks more, doesn't it? It resonates more. Yeah. Gary, what's your perspective on humor in the workplace and in marketing and comms?
Yeah, I absolutely love humor. I think it grounds people and show them that we're human and connects them, right? In my experience, humor is a tool where you have to be thinking about the audience and circumstance, right? Like certain personas are more welcoming humor than the other ones, right? So when you're marketing to IT versus lawyers versus internal communication folks or HR, you may have different type of tolerance or a completely different type of humor, right? So again, like any good storytelling, right? We have to tune the humor to a degree to the audience, right? And then the second part is the circumstance. In some circumstances, a humor can come across like super well placed. And in certain circumstances, as we all know, as we've all seen in our lives, could be totally out of place and come across cruel, right? So I would say it's a great tool when used right, but also we got to be careful how to use it and when to use it.
Yeah. Hey, I'm HR as well. Sometimes the note can be off in humor, can't it? I know we're looked at as a police of, is it appropriate or not? Yeah, it has to be appropriate, to your point, to audience, to context, and kind,
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's well said. And so, a lot of what, we do as practitioners or help our leaders do in our organizations is tell stories. And especially, Matt, given your role, your leaders are ambassadors for the brand, externally, but also especially internally. How do you kind of work in equipping your leaders, especially to be those great storytellers, to really represent, bring the customer experience into the workplace and inspire employees?
Well, I think that, it's a challenge. Leaders have a tough job, and trying to get them engaged in storytelling or in how they get their messages across that are different than what they're used to. So what we've done, what we try to do, and what we try to do is to demonstrate to them. So the best way is to show them that it works, is that people are connecting with their messages. And we try to do a variety of types of, content to let them tell the story. We try to facilitate it, right, to help them. Like, here's how you kind of construct it, or here's what we might talk about, or probably isn't good if you have 45 PowerPoint slides. You might want to cut it down to like 4 and have a point, that kind of thing. So it's working with them to make sure that they understand how people are consuming the information, and then walking them through that process. But I will say that one of the things with brand ambassadors and folks you have inside your company who could speak about it is that again, you've got to find the people that are enthusiastic about it and enthusiastic about what they are doing, because they can talk much more freely and much better about it. So it's finding also the things that make that person light up. So especially with leaders, sometimes they don't focus on necessarily the things that maybe will resonate with the audience. But if you can find those things that just make them light up, that connects with an audience, and people get that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important, just to make sure that they're talking about things that they're comfortable with and enthusiastic about, and that will come through. If they're not, and you just try to just give them something that's really not their thing, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that kind of well known, because I think it resonates, saying that Maya Angelou about it's people don't remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel.
Exactly.
And that very much comes across, doesn't it, for you as a speaker? If you've got passion or energy, or you've connected well with something, it naturally will flow out of you. Than if I'm reading a script because Matt told me I had to say this.
That's right. Yes, and sometimes they say that. That's the worst part, is they said,
I know.
I have to say this,
that,
or
Matt
HR
told me to say this. I get that too, Matt. I get that too.
It's like everyone just goes, no, forget it.
I know. It's like, okay, now I'm turning off. Yeah. No, that's right. And so what is I'd like one thing I'd like kind of maybe shift to exploring with you guys, because very selfishly I want to learn from this as well, is it strikes me that as we think about marketing campaigns, connecting with customers, there's that parallel that I started off this discussion with between, connecting with customers and connecting with employees. What are some of the, maybe approaches or ideas or lessons can we draw from how you develop a marketing strategy, how you build a great customer campaign? What are some of those ideas that we can learn from and maybe import into our employee experience and communication world? I mean, must be a myriad of things that we can steal. I'm all for stealing good ideas.
Yeah, I'll start with a story. So 2 or 3 companies ago, our CEO walked to me one day and said, "Hey, Gary, I want you to run internal communications." I'm like, "Huh? Internal communications? Like, why would I run internal communications?" Well, he's like, right now, HR cannot do that, and marketing is the closest, so you have it. Mm-hmm. So that was my first experience with internal comms. So I engaged in recruiting an internal comms leader and working on building the programs, and that was an eye-opener for me, because that's where I truly understood the importance of internal comms, of consistent comms, and the possibilities that it brings. So we worked together to develop campaigns and how to listen. So from that perspective, a few similarities there to me, where yes, absolutely, you want to develop campaigns, you want to have some themes, And that works both in external marketing as well as internal marketing, like internal accounts, right? Then the other part was interesting is listening. The same way that you listen to your customers, so you know what messages to give, you want to listen to your employees and not pretend that you listen, but actually hear them and have their stories. And then I'll finish with segmentation and bring in stories live, right? If you think about each persona has their story. Like if we're marketing to internal accounts folks, we want to have one story here, right? When we talk to our IT partners, we have a different story, and HR partners, a different story. But if you think about it, you have the same departments in your company. And you're marketing to the same departments. And if you can really connect to, for example, to IT and understand what their challenges are, and what are their deepest desires or fears or happiness is, you can really develop like a nurturing campaign almost, where you can tell a story after story. And if you have a really good platform, like employee experience platform that you can communicate from, you can automate that, right? And I'll finish with this thought. Something that I totally underestimated was, because it was my first job with IC, was the importance of the platform. So when my IC person came, said, hey, we want to have a platform, I'm like, so how much does it cost? And he told me, I'm like, yeah, I don't think we're going to do it, right? And then after struggling for 2-3 months, I'm like, okay, now I understand why do you need it. And by automating and actually making easier and enabling people within departments after you train them to tell their stories in a visual way, video way, and other ways, made the world of a difference, similar to the way you do it externally.
Yeah. No, that delivery piece is so important. Gosh, there's so much to unpack in there. I mean, the notion of, thinking about segmentation, personas is something, we've used for a while now in internal comms, but just the kind of richness of just some of the adjectives you use, Gary, about how you unpack a persona and think about it differently. Anything you would add to that, Matt, as you think about those lessons and ideas we can import from marketing strategies internally?
Yeah, I think that on that subject of like campaigns and doing it, thinking about it as a campaign. I think if you're doing internal comms, and this is something we probably didn't think about, we would think, oh, we just send the email out. Okay, the email goes out, they all got it, right? Which we all know doesn't work, and we all know the email's not great. But if you do a campaign, you have a start, a middle, and an end. So you let people know what's coming, get them excited about it. Then you tell them, and you have the event or the thing that you're getting to them, and then at the end you tell them how it went, and you do that as a campaign, just like we do any marketing campaign. And I think here's a good example of that. So we wanted to get innovation going throughout the company, and so somebody probably on an innovation committee, a council side, said we need to talk about innovation more, and that's okay, let's just talk about innovation. And so we wrapped it up in a campaign called the Summer of Innovation. So we had the Summer of Innovation where we said, hey, everybody, this is coming, and get excited about it. We're going to give away, a few things. So we led up to it, and we had this big campaign. We talked about it, and then we told them after who, had some of the great ideas. And it just turned into this very long. So it was like, even if we had done a short campaign or talked about it a couple of times, this turned into a months-long campaign where everybody was hearing about it. And, we got some very good results from that we wouldn't have gotten if we'd just said, hey, everybody just get your ideas in. Or if we sent out an email or a couple of emails. So huge impact using the same principles you'd use for any marketing campaign, and tracking it and doing all of those things as well.
Yeah, the measurement piece that Gary was alluding to. It's a good reminder, isn't it? Because I think I sense often, in the rush of, so many things going on that we're just all heads down working so hard, we forget that repetition. And I think it's a good reminder, because I've often said, as I've worked with many different types of leadership teams over my career, I've heard especially CEOs often say, yeah, I've already told them the strategy. We did it at the town hall, and we did it, I've repeated myself 6 times already. It's like, well, when you're getting bored with it, that's probably, means you've just got to keep on going, because you still haven't said it enough. It's, especially with an organization which is dispersed, bigger population, it doesn't matter how big you are, communication needs repetition.
Yeah. And us, marketers and advertisers, they know that number, by the way. There's a number. Got to hear it like 7 times. And, there's all kinds of, data along those lines. And you have to remind people, they're not going to get it the first time. They're not going to get it the second time.
That's really interesting. I'd like to kind of play off of that because, you both alluded to the metrics. You mentioned, Gary, the importance of listening. And you said, we as marketers know there's a number. That 7th time is the charm or whatever. And we know how to track that. I'm not sure that we're maybe as finely tuned as that when we're thinking about internal comms. Although, there's we have tools at our disposal for listening, for measuring. I don't know. How do you look at that when you're looking at that? How many times do I need to communicate internally, Matt, to get the message across? What kind of things and approaches do you use for that listening measurement piece?
Yeah, well, I think Gary also hit on this, which is knowing your audience, which is knowing who the message is going to and how it's going to impact them. So there are some messages where if it has a very real impact to them, you probably don't have as much. You can tell them and they'll get it pretty quickly why we're communicating this. Like, hey, this is, if you said this is going to impact your paycheck, I'm instantly interested. I'm watching and I'm asking and I'm looking at every line of that message and gonna ask you about each one of the bullets in this message. So you've got some of those. But I think the key is, and we all struggle with this, is there's other messages and there's other things that go along kind of on the transom that are maybe not as important as like your paycheck or those types of things. So you have to fight a little bit for attention, and sometimes it's timing. So sometimes it's just knowing what the right timing is. Sometimes it's repetition and knowing repetition. And then the last thing I'll add is, and one thing that I'm very passionate about is cascading messages, is just making sure that it comes through in multi-channel, so that, they're getting the same message, it's consistent, but, your boss mentioned something about it. You saw the article about it, you watched the video about it, and then, in the CEO's all hands, he talked about it. Well, I guess that's pretty important. I should probably pay attention to this. So there's all different ways, but we all struggle to find, the right channel, the right timing, the right way to get it. And you cannot, and we do have folks in our staff units that just want to, pound the message into people's heads. Can we send another email? Like we get that all the time. Can we just send another email? Can we just send another email? And we're like, no, we're not going to do that. They're not going to get it. So you're right. We all, when we think about communicating, need to think about those things and kind of everything that everybody has going on. And, what is the right time? What is the right message? How many is enough? It's a game, and that's one of the things that's fun for us, right? I think is trying to figure out what that is, and very rewarding when you hit the right tone and you hit the right message and you get it across.
Yeah. That 7th time, just knowing you've hit that 7th time a charm or whatever that number
Ding!
is for you.
The bell goes off and you're like, got it.
Yeah. No, Gary, anything else that you would add on that list?
Yeah, I want to absolutely agree with Matt's points about multi-channel and the time. Like think about when we do email in external marketing or messaging, we look at the timing, right? Time of the day, time of the week, when it's most effective for certain type of messages. So, and multi-channel, absolutely agree. I want to add two elements to that. One is, it's going to sound funny, multimedia, but not multimedia of 90s, right? With a CD-ROM, right? I'm dating myself. But meaning that certain types of messages resonate with certain people and certain generations, right? To Matt's point, let's not shove emails into people's throats. Why not have a short video clip that is 30 seconds or 15 seconds like TikTok, right? That delivers that message. Or maybe have in a form of an audio, right? Or a pop-up on the mobile if you have a employee experience that is mobile first, right?
To add to that is that the way that people consume is different from person to person and job to job. And we have people that are not at a desk. So sometimes you got to get them by mobile. Sometimes they are by a desk. So they consume it in different ways. They consume it at different times. They like it in different formats, so it's all of those things, right? It's trying to get them where they are. And, it's that old saying, meet them where they are.
No, I think that's very well said by both of you. I was just going to draw that parallel that we know there's that CX-EX relationship alignment, and it plays out in the technology, doesn't it, that we're having to use to both reach customers differently and to reach employees differently, because we all consume now, it's too long, didn't read. It's everybody's down to kind of the length of a tweet, or whatever your channel of preference is. It's evolved massively. And so that internal tech as to how we reach employees has by necessity had to evolve and almost keep up with what the needs and the demands are. Well, it kind of goes back to where we started at the top of this conversation, Matt, when I asked you the question about kind of that CX-EX connection, and you said, it starts from the inside. And in order to equip employees, build that brand, have people believe, feel excited about it, you've got to have the means to reach people. And I think, we invest instinctively, I think, often first in our marketing platforms, and for good reason, because that's reaching our customers and they are our lifeblood. But equally important is how we also reaching all of our employees. And as you see that world evolving, how do you, do you look at your marketing tech and think, I see innovations happening there, I'd love to have this on the inside? Where do you see that marketing tech, employee tech kind of relationship evolving?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And, when Gary was talking about, when all of the changes in technology have really helped us understand what's possible and how we leverage that. And I think that, we're closer than ever to saying, the things that we're doing to try to reach our customers, they're people. So we're trying to reach people in roles that are very similar to the people we have in our company that are in similar roles. They're the same, types of people doing the same types of work, and they're interested in the things that we can talk about can be just as relevant to them. But we need to do it in the same with the same type of rigor that we're doing on the marketing side, which is not taking for granted that they're going to read the emails, or they're not taking for granted that they want to hear what you're trying to tell them, or hear what you want to say, or consume it in the way you want to deliver it. So all of those lessons we've been learning from the marketing automation side, I think have really helped us. And I would say in certain ways, right? It's a back and forth. It's not like you don't get ideas from your internal system and the things that you're doing internally. Some of those things just naturally you think, oh my gosh, that would work externally, or oh my gosh, we should be doing this in our marketing. And there's some companies that are really good at it, and some companies who are already kind of thinking that way. And there's some companies who do the marketing, and it's really about the employees and about the culture and those types of things. And they probably didn't even realize it, or didn't even think about it. And it may not have even occurred to them, or it may not even be happening internally in the company. But I think with the automation that we have today for the employee experience, right? You can do that and then transfer it right over into the external marketing. You're tweaking the message. You're saying, okay, just a little bit different, a little bit different audience, or maybe the way we're delivering it is going to be different, but it's the same types of messaging. It's the same campaigns. It's the same, we're looking at the same analytics. So all of those things really kind of start connecting a lot. Yeah. And I think in a lot of cases, the employee experience and what you're doing there, if you're doing it right, it's authentic, all the things we've talked about, can really drive some of the marketing stuff too. Not all of it, because you do have to sell. There are things we're selling, but the company and the employee experience and those types of things are very relevant to most of our customers. If you're B2C, maybe not as much, but it's relevant today. But B2B, absolutely. And customers will find, those types of things interesting, just like your employees find them interesting.
Yeah.
Matt, you brought an interesting point. Sorry, Miriam. I just wanted to highlight this point. I never really thought it that way in terms of what can we do from internal comms tech towards marketing tech. I thought the other way. But as you were speaking, I was thinking, wow, how cool it would have been if, similar to employee experience platforms that have additional things like surveys, listening and newsletters and, AI uh, capabilities. How cool would that be if our marketing automation platforms would have similar things like natively built in, like in employee experience platforms, right? So it's not just a bolt on, but it's natively part of the sort of thing where you can easily just send a survey, design and send a survey to your customers and segment them. And see their engagement in that way, or create a newsletter that is also within just a couple of like mouse clicks, right? Like in employee experience platforms, right? Like that would be super cool if our automation platforms could follow the example of EX platforms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's just so many possibilities out there. And you've kind of both touched, you're touching on all the automation that's possible, what AI can bring us. When you think about, in marketing tools and employee experience tools, obviously AI is just built in, or should be. If it isn't, you need to change out. What are some of your kind of, maybe, as you look forward, what are some of your kind of hopes or wish list to say, gosh, we've made all the advancements we've made. Things have changed very rapidly, especially in the last few years. What would you hope for next that would both maybe help you reach customers, but also help you reach employees, or vice versa? What would be that wish list, without naming any particular technologies, but just what would be your wish list of what comes next, maybe?
Ooh, that's a tough one, but there's a lot out there. So there's a couple things, right, that you measure whether you're a marketer or whether you're doing internal comms, those types of things, right? It's reach, so what's our reach, and then what's the relevance? So any tools that can help you, and my wish list would be, something that really gives us that kind of real-time pulse of what's relevant to the audience that we're trying to reach. Is that really hitting? And there are some tools and some things, some ways to do that. But it's really hard because, if like us, if we're talking, I can see your body language. I can get, an idea of whether or not that's really resonating, whether you're excited about it or whether you're looking at your phone, those types of things. You can't really do that. It's like, I look at it like, so if I was to, the analogy for like a driving cars right now, so cars that drive themselves, and you have, something that monitors your eyes to make sure that you're looking at the road and you're on there, right? So if we had something like that says, hey, I can tell when they're looking at our message and when they're really into our message, not just looking at it. We track stuff like that, cookies and all that thing, so you can get an idea. They opened it or they, read it or, whatever. But really something would be, hey, that really resonated with it. There's a spark. There's something going on. The light bulb's starting to go on. It's a little dim, but it's going on. Let's hit them with something else and let's really make it shine. Let's really do that. And so that relevance, that idea of reach, and then, we're reaching people, but we're reaching people that it really matters to, like, or that we want to reach. We do inbound marketing, which is, we're really trying to reach the people that are looking for the things we're selling, not just everybody in the world. So, that would be another way that I'd say that would be on my wish list. Get to those people, see that it's really resonating.
That's an interesting parallel. I wrote that down, that reach and relevancy, and how do you kind of keep hitting the mark and learning that much better? I mean, some of the analytics we have today help us with that, but there's no doubt a next generation of that coming that will help us do that even better. What would be on your wish list, Gary, as you think about the next leaps that we're going to be able to make with AI?
Yeah, AI has been revolutionizing marketing, and I think it's an understatement. And I often share with my colleagues that either you will be dominated by AI and you'll be left in the dust, or you will embrace AI and you'll dominate the industry, right? In marketing, and AI is completely transforming the way we create content. And not that AI is creating content for us and we blindly go with it, but for amplification and scaling. If before we had to have like 4 or 5 content people and they could create certain amount of it. Now you can have just one or two people and they create like 3-4 times more content that is better and easier to research, right? Like in product marketing, the amount of research that you can do with AI and ideas you can generate to start with, again, is a huge game changer, right? And then we're seeing a wish list would be for me for AI to be more engaged, ingrained in our analytics, that it could go through integrations of like Marketo, Salesforce, 6sense, Demandbase, whatever people use, and other tools, and truly connect the dots and come up with meaningful recommendations like, hey, based on your target customers and ideal customers, closed won, closed lost, and whatnot, here is, you should use this kind of touch points, reach out to these audiences and, have so many touches, use videos that are 27 seconds, and whatever else, like putting this together. I think that could be an absolute game changer. And that's where we're working and going towards, because a lot of that process right now is super manual and it relies on armies of people and takes lots of time.
Yeah, no, that productivity gain is huge. And I know, speaking as a HR practitioner and somebody who, is all about that employee experience, that kind of ability to aggregate data, create insights for that much more faster, much more, real time. That for me would be, absolutely game changing. Again, we've made some great leaps. I love having my team dashboard that I can see in front of me on our employee experience platform. But there's so much more, like you're saying, Matt, being able to get more of that kind of, almost emotional reaction, kind of more real time. Again, we've made baby steps, but big strides ahead of us. Well, I could keep on talking all day, but literally we need to bring things to a close. It's been fascinating. I've got fluffery as my word of the rest of the day, Gary. So thank you for that. But good reminders about just the lessons in reaching our customers that resonate with reaching our employees, about authenticity, about transparency, about storytelling, and bringing real emotion and human connection into it as well, and being able to do that at scale. Quickly leveraging technology runs through both of those sides of the equation. So delightful to talk to you both today. We like to let our listeners know if they would like to connect with you in any way, and what would be the best kind of platform for them to do that on. Matt, for you, how could people reach out to you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn at Matt Rivera. The company is DAY, Day and Zimmermann, and we're at dayzim.com. So I'd be happy to connect with anybody.
Perfect, Matt. And Gary, for you?
Same here. LinkedIn, Gary Sevounts, and Simpplr with PPL in the middle.
People are at the center of everything we do, that's for sure. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. And thank you again, Matt and Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Matt.